Have you been thinking about advertising and marketing, maybe expanding your brand awareness? Have you been talking budgets? Have you taken a look at the digital landscape lately and thought, I'm not really sure where I'm going? Well, today we'll talk to Fred Eckrosh from Eckrosh Marketing. We'll talk all things advertising and marketing and get some of your questions answered. Actually, we'll get a lot of those answered today. Fred, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I love your backdrop.
Thank you. I'm in a villa somewhere.
I wish we all were, right? Well, we're going to jump right into it. I want to hear about more about you, where you're from, and how you got started in agency work. And we'll talk about marketing and how it's changed from your beginning to now. And it changes, it seems, daily. So just jump on in and let me know how you got started, where you're from, and then how you made it to having your own agency.
Fair enough. I've been in this business 30, 32, 30. I stopped counting after 30. And I started off in Los Angeles. And after graduating, decided to work at an agency as an intern, free unpaid intern, and then got a job from there and just kind of migrated over to the media department. I didn't study media in college. I did study marketing and advertising, but media was never something on my radar. Then I got into the media department and learned a little bit about, at the time, 30 years ago, it was buying television and radio and newspaper and print and things like that. It was all traditional media. And I actually liked it, and I liked there was research, and there was a format to follow, and it got more creative as you got to know the media better. But you had to learn how to read a rate card and negotiate rates and things like that. So it appealed to me, and really from there just decided, you back in the day, as they say. You wanted a new job, you called a headhunter and you said, hey, I'm looking for something new. And then a couple of weeks later, you had some interviews. And so I did kind of a tour de force in Los Angeles, BBDO and Chiat Day and J. Walter Thompson and kept moving up as I got new jobs, spent about a year and a half, 2 years at each agency. And then out of the blue, talking with my wife about wanting to move out of Los Angeles, and about a month later, got a call from a headhunter who said there's an agency looking for a media director in Portland. And it was actually exactly where we wanted to move. So it was just extremely opportunistic. And I said, yeah, let's do the interview. And I got the job. And a month later, my wife and I moved up to Portland, and we've been here ever since. And it is where we want to be. Been here now about 26 years. And I was a media director at an agency, a small agency in Portland. And again, kind of moved around a little bit and did some, worked at a media management company but all basically here in the Portland market, and worked with clients all over the Northwest and some in Southern California, just pretty much West Coast, but a lot of Northwest. And ended up at an agency called North. I was the media director there for about 8 years, and decided that I'd kind of was hitting my head up against the wall or the ceiling there, and wanted to do something more. Knew that I wasn't going to get a whole lot more responsibility or make a whole lot more money, and decided to take the risk of going out on my own. And decided in 2008 that I'm just going to see what happens and what was nice is my agency at the time, North, was very cooperative, and they were actually my first client. So I decided that it was a little bit of a risk. I had a little bit of a net because they were my client, and then I had to go find some new business, and it was kind of taken off from there. It's amazing how you don't know how many contacts you make until you really have to rely on those contacts, to get business. And I had been in the market for so many years people knew my name. They knew what I did. And then when I let them know that I was on my own, I started getting business and getting opportunities to work with either agencies or with direct clients. And it's kind of mushroomed from there.
Well, that's a lot to dive into. Let's just start with, why don't you explain what an agency is?
An ad agency really is there's a lot of different types of ad agencies. The big ad agencies in Los Angeles can employ hundreds of people, and they write copy. They film the commercials. They've got media departments, production departments, traffic departments, and they're big organizations. But when we moved to Portland, there's a few big advertising agencies in this market, but mostly this market is built with smaller, we call them boutique agencies, where there may be 20 people, there may be 10 people, and they've got copywriters, and they might have some art directors and some account executives working on pieces of clients' business, but they don't always have what we call full service, which is including media, including traffic and production of spots, radio spots, television spots. And so they hire out for that. And so what I do is, as Eckrosh Marketing, I work as a media department for my clients who don't have one, either agencies, boutique agencies that just don't have the need to have a full-time creative or a media department on their staff because it's expensive to have, or a direct client who has creative. Maybe they do it in-house. They do their ads in-house, but they need somebody to place their media. And what I mean by placing media is buying television ads, negotiating with television stations and radio stations, and putting their commercials on these stations, or buying digital banners, Facebook, all the social media, out of home, all the outdoor boards that you see when you drive your freeway. Somebody has to put those boards up and that message up. And that's what I do. I negotiate with all of them, these different vendors, these different media vendors, on behalf of my clients.
And that's a lot of businesses, startups, individuals looking for brand awareness, revenue growth, click-throughs, pay per view. That's a lot. That's a lot for a novice. It's a lot for somebody who's been spending a lot of money and budgeting for marketing. How do they navigate through that? How do they get started?
That's a really good question. It is a kind of a dog eat dog world out there in advertising. And there's a lot of people out there that will take advantage of a smaller company that wants to advertise. And you have to be very careful. But don't get me wrong, there are a lot of very good people in this market that will work really hard for your business. But how do you weed that out? How do you know you're getting what you need to have to move your business along? And you really need to find, and this is not an advertisement for my services, but you really want to have somebody who, like I call it, is media agnostic, who doesn't, I'm not trying to sell you television. I'm not trying to sell you out of home or digital or Facebook or anything. I'm going to listen to what you want to accomplish, what your goals are. And then, because I have experience across the board in all different types of media, because I've been in this business so long and I've seen it evolve and have had to evolve along with it, I have either very extensive knowledge or a working knowledge on just about every type of media vehicle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick and choose what I think is going to satisfy your goals and then present them to you. So I have no vested interest in selling you any one type of media. My vested interest is having a client be successful, because if they're successful, they're going to come back. And so you have to be very careful who you're buying your media from. Are they selling you television because they're television salespeople? And are they going to tell you that maybe radio might be better? If they've got digital, are they selling it because they've got a digital partner and they're going to make money selling digital? Those are just some of the questions you have to ask. And there are, like I said, a lot of very good people out there who will provide you with great value. You just have to know, you have to weed them out. You have to figure out who they are.
I don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole in regards to what's available in regards to traditional and digital marketing, but it all works differently. How does somebody kind of sort through Instagram, TV, radio? Like, what's the first question? If somebody is obviously wanting to raise brand awareness, or maybe that is the question. What is it you want to do in regards to generating revenue, bringing clients in the door, getting somebody to your Instagram page? Like, what's the first question? And then kind of in a broad stroke, why are the applications different? I mean, why I like to watch TV. Why doesn't TV work?
Right. Well, asking those questions is really the root of satisfying their need. And sometimes my clients don't know what questions to even ask. I'll ask them, what do they want to accomplish? And they say, I don't know, I think I want to just get my name out. Well, what do you want to do? If somebody gets your name out, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to go to your website? Is there a product you're trying to sell them, or a service? Are you just trying to get some brand recognition because you have your salespeople that are knocking on the doors, but they want to know who you are before they get to the door? Digging deep and trying to figure out what that is, that nugget, and what that goal would be, is really, really hyper important. Because if you don't have a clear defined goal, you're really kind of shooting in the dark. Because each media vehicle has something different to offer. So if you want broad brand awareness, sometimes television is the best way to go. It's going to reach everyone from 8 to 80. Do you really want that? Do you need that? If you are just talking to senior citizens, how do you market to just them and not to 30-somethings? So that's where you really need to peel the onion back and find out what the client is trying to get to. What are their ultimate goals? What are they trying to satisfy? And then you're picking and selecting the right media vehicles to limit the waste, but also give them some value. So that's kind of where a media strategist like myself comes in.
So how have things changed over the last couple of years in regards to just marketing, in where it was radio and TV and newspaper and billboards, and now what's this digital marketing? What is that? It's
changed. I would say about 15 or so years ago, it changed. It did a 180, and it went from all traditional to all of a sudden you started seeing this thing called digital media. And digital media has really taken over for a lot of what you look for in advertising. And one of the reasons why is it's because it's so trackable. You know who is seeing your ad. You know if they've actually responded to your ad. Television and radio and billboards and print can't offer that. Now, they can offer other things, and there is still value in potentially using those types of vehicles. But the accountability that is in digital marketing is really hard to beat. And it is growing as part of the media mix. It has grown steadily year after year because it is so trackable, and so absolutely affordable, because I'm going to target just my audience and no one else. And I'm going to know whether my ad is working because I can see my clicks. I can see my website traffic going up. And so I've seen that's been the biggest shift. And there's been some media vehicles that have been able to stay relevant. television and radio has been staying relevant. Out of home stays relevant. Newspaper has taken it on the chin. There's a lot of newspapers are struggling these days because people don't get their news necessarily from newspapers anymore, and so digital has really hurt them. But it's hard to beat television if you want broad reach, and if you want to reach a commuter, it's hard not to be in radio. So it's changed. Traditional hasn't changed, but the digital marketing and all the different tools to target in digital marketing are changing every day. There's something new coming out. So it's something that you have to stay on top of.
And when you say accountability and trackability in digital, what does that really mean? I know in traditional TV and radio, like you said, it's kind of, I look at it kind of like that's kind of a buckshot, like you kind of scatter your shot, and then with digital, it's a little more laser-like. And when you say accountability and trackable, what does that mean for people that are, they think digital is, my 18-year-old niece understands Instagram, so she does all my posts for me.
Well, there's hardly an advertiser now or a business now that doesn't have a website. I'm sure there are some, there's not many. So if you've got a website, that's really your digital front door. And that's kind of how marketing has been working, especially the digital marketing, is trying to get people to that digital front door. And now that there's a pandemic and people are doing everything on their computer, and they're not necessarily going to these brick and mortar stores anymore, those brick and mortar stores to survive are going digital, and they're doing more e-commerce. Well, how do you get people to your website? There's a lot of different tools and a lot of different ways you can unlock that. First, it depends on the types of site you have. And is your site easily accessible? And then what types of digital advertising do you want to do? Facebook has a certain audience. Instagram has a certain audience. Digital banners have certain audiences. And performance metrics, clicks. How many people will click on a banner ad versus a Facebook ad? And so it's really a matter of using all of these different tools wisely. And you can be very laser focused, but you can also be broad in your approach. If you want to reach a large audience, you can do that in digital. It doesn't have to be laser focused, but a lot of times it is because it lends itself to be. So,
Well, let's say that someone is really focused on the digital and they think that that's Facebook and Instagram because those are the most accessible and that's what they're somewhat familiar with. How do you explain to them what the other options are in regards to generating revenue, brand awareness, e-commerce? It's not all Facebook and Instagram, but that's what the end user and a lot of end users use, and they want to get into that next step.
Mm-hmm. And if we're talking just like say an e-commerce site where they're selling to the consumer, yeah, it's Facebook is not a be all end all. There are limitations to Facebook, but Facebook is a tool. And so are all these other media vehicles. And you don't want to just put all of your money in one tool. There are a lot of people that use Facebook, but there are also a lot of people that don't. And depending on your audience, you can target those people, whether they are on Facebook or whether they're not. If they're in the digital world, I personally don't use Facebook very often personally. I buy a lot of it, but I'm not on it personally. So if somebody is trying to communicate with me using Facebook, I'm probably not going to see that ad. I'm digital savvy. I'm on the computer all the time, but I'm not on social media. So how are they going to reach me? And that's where digital banners and using different targeting like behavioral targeting. You can do geofence targeting. So I could target a specific building if I wanted to. I could target a zip code or a a whole market, but I can be very precise in who I target and where I target them, and actually when I want them to see the message. So whether that be in Facebook, or whether that's in display, or if it's in um, digital television now, instead of buying CBS, at the local TV station, you can buy a lot of this now, a lot of your television digitally, and be very precise in who it is that's going to see your ad. Unlike television, that's just like that shotgun that you mentioned, you can buy digital television and be far less shotgunny and be more precise in who it is you're going to try to reach. You can do the same thing with radio. There's digital radio, Pandora and Spotify. I can target a specific audience with a radio message, and I don't necessarily have to buy the local radio station if I don't want to. So there's all these different tools, all these different digital tools, far beyond Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and whatever the case may be. There's so many different ways to target your audience. And I typically don't just employ one, because like I said, I'm not a Facebook user, but I'm a consumer, and I'm a digital consumer. So you have to find ways to reach everybody in your audience group, not just those that use Facebook. So it's a media mix.
So looking at a media mix, where does budgeting come in? What's an average budget, or if somebody's considering marketing and they really haven't done it before, how do they, without busting the bank, navigate all of this and come up with a budget? What does that kind of look like? What's that step?
That's a very good question, because I'm dealing with that every day. I've got clients who have very definitive budgets. They say, I want to spend X amount of money over X amount of time, put together a plan for me. And then I have others, a lot of others, that say, I have no idea how much I want to spend. This is what I want to do. What do you recommend? And I usually tell them that, look, it's all about efficiency. I don't want to waste your money. So once I know what your goals are, it really is a matter of time and money. So how long do you want to advertise for? If you've got $5,000 and you want to advertise for a year, it's going to be a little limiting. There's only so much I can do. If you got $5,000 and you want to advertise for 2 weeks, there's something I might be able to do digitally, because that's the time is spread over, or the money is spread over a shorter period of time. So it really is a matter of, for me, when I have a client who doesn't know exactly what they want to spend or where they want to spend it, it's about putting together options. It's about letting them know that there's more than one way to do this. There's no one right answer. There's a lot of right answers. And it really is finding the right answer that works best for you. So I'll put together a media mix that makes the most sense. Tell my clients, really, you should be looking at A, B, C, and D. And I'll even prioritize, saying, you know what, you really should be doing behavioral digital first. That is the one media vehicle that's going to work the hardest for you. And, then you might want to look at some billboards. And that's going to be another vehicle that's going to work hard for you. And give them a list, prioritize that list, and say, okay, here's kind of how this would look if you were to advertise over, say, 6 months. And I try to give them some options as to how much pressure we can put in a market, and find out what they're comfortable with spending. And if they come back to me and say, yeah, you know what, I can't afford to do your top level, but I could afford to do the next level. Okay, now that we know what you're comfortable with spending and you can see what that money will get you, let me fine tune this for you a little bit. Let me see if I can go and negotiate some better rates, a lower CPM, maybe get some value added with some of these vendors, and really round it out. But you have to provide the client with options, because there is no one way to do this. And I don't think I've ever repeated the same plan to any client, because there's just so many different ways to slice and dice with media. It's all unique.
And a basic focus point for a client would be your target audience. Who is that? That's one of the basic questions, opposed to, oh, I want signage, or I want somebody to walk through my door. Who do you want to walk through your door? Who are we talking about? Can you walk us a little bit through figuring out who your target audience might be for somebody who hasn't done it yet?
It is a lot of clients don't know, and they know they're selling product, and they kind of have an idea who they're selling it to. But if you were to sit them in a room and say, I want to, tell me exactly who it is that's buying your product or consuming your service, they'd be hard pressed. So there are a lot of different tools that I have access to. And it really kind of depends on the type of media that we're going to be looking at. But I do, for clients, I put together these are called personas. And what I'll do is I'll say, okay, here's what I see as your typical client, your typical customer. And I start with, what is the products that you're selling? And then I can do research. It's called syndicated research, which basically allows me to piece together bits of information that draws a picture of who your audience is. What's their age? What's their relative income and their education levels? What's their political bend? What are their attitudes towards certain things? And I can gather that information. And what I like to do is show them, here is the kind of the bullet points of some of the characteristics, not just demographics, but what does it make, what makes them them? What are their belief systems? And then I show them a picture or two or three of, this is kind of who I see this person being. And it's when I can put a picture to it and I can say, it's this person who's between the ages of 30 and 35, who's a new parent, has been married 10 years or less, and who's, starting there in the beginning of their career. And this is what this person looks like. And they go, yeah, those are the people that are coming into my store. And I go, there we go. That's who we're going to try to reach. And then I try to replicate that audience to the different media vehicles that we might consider for a plan.
Well, what would the basics be? Let's just say there's a business out there, manufacturing business, and they're doing well, but they feel, and they've got a website, and it's okay because their IT guy put it together, but they don't know for sure. Where would they get started? Like, is there a place, first of all, obviously you and Eckrosh Marketing, of course, but where could they start? Like, they're just at a loss for how to get started on the path to marketing their company.
Well, there's two different types of the kind of advertising we would do, B2B or B2C. And if you are B2B, it's less about the demographics and more about what is their job title. Who are the people that are buying your product? Are they marketing managers? Are they product managers of certain types of businesses? If you've got a trucking company or a company that makes trucking parts, you want to talk to fleet managers. And then you want to find out from the client, are these fleet managers national? Do you want to go over across the whole United States, or do you want to target just in certain areas of the country, basically because maybe your distribution is only in those areas? All right, well, then I want to reach fleet managers, parts managers in these areas. And then I can target them either with specific websites, B2B websites, or I could do, again, using behavioral and behavioral digital advertising and target them that way. If it's B2C and I've got a consumer, it's a little bit more tricky. With B2B, it's very straightforward. It's who's buying your product, who you're marketing this product to. If it's a truck part, there's only a certain amount of people that are going to want to buy these truck parts. But if you've got a toy store and you want to get more customers in, well, I'm not going to market to kids necessarily. I'm going to market to parents. What types of toys do they have in the store? And I'm going to build a profile. First, I'm going to find out what their geography is, because if it's one store or it's 2 or 3 stores, what's their selling radius? How far up do they really need to go to get their customers? And then I'm going to define who those customers could be. If it's really high-end toys, if these are handcrafted educational toys, I'm probably going to want to talk to somebody with a certain income, with a certain bend for wanting to educate their kids and build and craft an audience based on who their ideal customer would be. And it's a little bit of a shot in the dark because I'm not an expert on their customers, but it's really talking to my clients because they are, and finding out, are you comfortable with this audience? It's not a definitive right and wrong. I'm going to base it based on the best of information I have available to me, who your audience is. And if you agree, let's try this. If it's not working, and not all advertising does, then maybe we need to adjust the audience. Maybe we've reached an audience that's more too upscale. Maybe we need to change the demographics and be more inclusive with our targeting. Maybe we're targeting too old. Maybe we need to be a little younger, or vice. Maybe we need to include grandparents. So it's really I don't have all of the answers definitively. I'm going to put together the best recommendation on targeting that I possibly can based on the tools that I have available. And they're pretty good tools.
Well, I like hearing that. I like hearing that there is some fluidity, that it can change. Like if we're on this path and we're not exactly feeling like we're hitting our target, let's just reevaluate. Let's just take a second look and let's adjust, because there are so many tools in the toolbox.
And there's so many ways that advertising can be affected. Not only just the geography and the targeting, but you could have 2 different ads, and I can run the 2 different ads side by side and test them. And the only difference is one has got a green background and one's got a red background. And the green background will do better. Why? I don't know, but it did. So let's continue doing the green background ad, and let's move away from the red background ad. So you learn and you test these things and you find out what's triggering your audience. Sometimes you don't know. There's no rational reason. You just know this works and you've tried it and it's worked. So let's continue to do this. And then we keep testing. And with digital, that's the beauty of it, is you can test your messaging. You can test your different audiences and different geography. And you can put them side by side and look at the differences and say, yeah, this ad performed better than this ad, or this geography is pulling much better than this geography. And you learn, okay, well then let's do this now. Let's focus on what's working. And then maybe we can do some more testing based on this pool of things that we already know work. And you get smarter as you go along.
Well, the more wins you get, the better you get at it. You start doing some of the same things over and over again, or the things that aren't working, you navigate away from those. Let's talk about some of your clients. What was like the most creative marketing plan or company you worked with that you guys just put together this whiz-bang marketing campaign and everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest ever because you are in the creative field?
I'd like to think I'm in the creative field. I don't write copy, and I don't do art direction or I don't make the television and radio ads and banner ads, but I am creative, and media can be very creative. There are certain types of vehicles that lend itself to being creative. Probably one of the most creative types of media out there is out of home. You can do just about anything with out-of-home advertising. You've seen billboards, but any kind of a message that you see outside your house is out-of-home advertising. So I had a client in Seattle that it was a municipal water company, and they wanted to get awareness of water usage in their territory. And So what we did is we came up with an idea of creating using various parks around the Seattle metro area. We built a wall, a movable wall, that was basically a big chalkboard. And we wrote on the chalkboard in numerous places, what does clean water mean to you, with a line. And we had people fill in what clean water meant to them. And we put this wall we built up, and you couldn't miss it. Whenever there was a festival, we had this wall up. And people would write in some of the most unique, eloquent way why clean water was important to them. And not only did we get them thinking about it, we got awareness for, making sure that, you're not wasting water. And we used that wall for about 2 years, going through during the summer for 2 years. We had to rent a storage facility. We had to get a company to build the wall and ship the wall, assemble the wall and disassemble it and move it. And it was logistically a lot of work, but the client was thrilled with the hands-on, very tactical approach to marketing that they got. So those are the kinds of things. It's really, as media is as broad as your imagination, and digital lends itself to being very creative, with the use of video and the use of HTML5 and animation in your ads, and different ways you can target. It's almost scary how much we can know about an audience and how we can target an audience. And that's very creative in using those tools as well. So it's what keeps me in this business. It's those kinds of wins that keep me in the business and keep me doing what I've been doing.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I remember back in the day, it used to be hot zips. That's what you track down your zip codes, and that was as deep as it got. Or the signage on auto repair stores, those where you put the physical letters on, and you own all of those in a town. So it has changed a lot, the way that you can blanket a market and really get your product out there, or find your audience, or find your clients and deliver directly to them.
Yes. And being unique, sometimes the media is the message. And if you can be unique in the way you deliver the media, that's the most memorable thing sometimes of the message. If you can do, they have things called sidewalk stencils, where they literally just have a stencil and somebody comes over with a pressure washer and pressure washes your message onto a sidewalk. All they're doing is pressure washing the dirt off the sidewalk to reveal your ad. People walking down the sidewalk, they see it, and that's a very unique way to get a message across. And then a few months, the message disappears because, grime in the city, and it goes away. So if you can make media your message and help extend the message and get it cemented into a client, into a customer's brain, the battle's won. And that's breaking through the clutter is what we try to do. Being just another television ad or another banner ad, and kind of being forgotten is death to advertising. You want to be remembered. And so to be remembered, you have to have a combination of good, great media and good and great creative. And the combination of the two is unbeatable. I mean, everyone remembers their favorite television ad or their favorite radio ad.
Right.
I'm enamored with Super Bowl ads, mainly because, it's usually at a party and then there's cheese, but also because, the prices of them. It's extraordinary, the dollar amount that gets placed on those ads, like Doritos and their creative ads, and the fact that they had their consumer come up with their ads. So their budget was, in regards to creating the ad, was pretty much nil, but then they spent millions on the ads.
You're right. And the commercials during certain events like that, one of the events I like to take advantage of, because sometimes I have clients who want to be in the Super Bowl, but even locally, Super Bowls can be really expensive. But you could do things like the Academy Awards is an almost Super Bowl-like event that it costs a fraction of what it does for the Super Bowl, but you get nearly the same type of audience numbers. And finding those kinds of Super Bowl-like opportunities for a local client who has a local spot, and it may not even be a new spot. It may be the same spot because they can't afford to produce something new, but getting it in a media vehicle, in an opportunity to have everyone see it and remember it, you can win that way. And so there's opportunities for the large companies like Doritos, Frito-Lay, and Ford and Apple Computers to make big splashes in big events. But there's opportunities for small clients to make big splashes in big events locally. And I relish the opportunity to do that.
Well, speaking of the client, just getting started, like the questions that they have to ask themselves in regards to who's your target audience, what's your budget, what type of venue, media outlet are you going to use? Are you going to head towards digital? What that mix looks like in order for them to succeed and figure out where they want to take their product or their business. And that's what you do, is answer those questions. And it is not just one media source. There's just so much available. And in the beginning, it was easier to figure out radio or TV or, the basic traditional media routes because that's all there was. But it, to your point, is changing constantly. And that's why you and I are speaking, frankly, is because you do have those answers and you are willing to work with those budgets, and you can guide people through the process of what works for them and what doesn't work for them, because it is different for every single client.
Absolutely. Honestly, this business comes down to trust. And I want my clients to trust that I'm in it for them, that I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm trying to sell them success, and whatever form that success takes. But trust. If my clients trust me to do my work, and they may not fully understand it, and they can ask as many questions as they want. I'm more than happy to tutor them in all things media. But my clients typically don't have the time to do that. They want to know that I know it, and they want to know that they can trust me to provide them with the best options and the best opportunities on their behalf. And so that's what this business comes down to: is do you trust the person you're working with? And if my clients trust me, I'm going to do what's best for them. And I like I said, media agnostic is something that I really stress. If you're talking to someone who has a vested interest in selling you some particular type of media, you have to ask yourself, are they telling me everything I need to know? Are they looking at all the different options, or are they selling me this media because that's the media that they're getting paid to sell? And if the answer is yes, you might still trust them, but you also might want to talk to somebody who doesn't have a vested interest in selling any one type of media, see what they have to say. And they might say the same thing, but they might not. They're going to take a look at everything out there and say, yeah, you know what, you could take a look at this as well. Or I have clients, I tell them, look, you don't need to spend as much money as you said you needed to. I can do this for 30% less money, because quite honestly, you don't need it. Let's save it. Let's save it, and let's run another 5 months longer in the year than you were planning on it, because you don't need to spend it all right now. My client's success is my success. So however I get there.
And if people are watching right now and listening and they've got questions, they know that they want to step into marketing their business, but they don't have the answers, and it's rolling around in their head that there's so much, they should contact someone such as yourself to start that process and ask those questions. So when they make that first phone call, to you, what are they asking? I mean, what is that first phone call like for somebody who's got a budget, but they just haven't taken the step?
A lot of times people call me, there obviously is a reason to call. They realize they need some marketing, and they realize it because maybe their sales are declining, or maybe a competitor just moved next door to them, or there could be any number of reasons. So there's obviously a reason that they want to market. Determining what that reason is and understanding why they want to market. Not necessarily what their goals are, but why do they want to market? Why is it now important to focus on this? I work with, and I'm not, this is not a sales pitch for Eckrosh marketing. This is really just in general. I work with clients that are, tiny, $500 a month budget to $50,000, $100,000 a month budget or more. So how much you have to spend has no bearing on the need to market it. You don't have a lot of money, but you still want to market. There's a solution for that. There's not necessarily a cost of entry. You can do something very, very inexpensively. Maybe to try it out if you're a first-time marketer. Let's see what we can do, and let's do a test. And it might be just maybe a month. Let's see what we can do in a month, and see if we can move the needle. What needle? Let's discuss what that needle is. Is it you want to get more clicks to your website? All right, let me see what I can do. Give me a month. I'm going to say, I'll give you some options. This is how much you're comfortable spending. Let me see if I can move the needle for you. And if I do, great. If you want to continue, great. If I didn't, then I want to know why. And I want to report back to as to, this is why this thing may not have worked. And let's move on. I don't have that conversation very often. Because quite honestly, if you're advertising, you're advertising smart. You're gonna get people to notice your ads, and you're gonna get some notice, and you're gonna get some traction. Meaning you're gonna get some people to your website if you're doing digital marketing and you're doing even a decent job. You're gonna get people, but can you get more people for the same money? And how much more can you get? And being as efficient as possible is really where the trust comes in. If I can show my clients, for the same amount of money, we can do this and get this much more. Let's give it a try. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm certainly going to give my best guess. 30 years in the business, or somebody who has a lot of experience, is going to give you the best guess. And chances are they're going to be more successful than not.
It's a partnership.
It very much is.
Well, Fred, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yes, my pleasure.
Is there anything else that you want to add? Is there a specific link that you can add, or a place where someone can go? And I'm going to go ahead and post your information, Eckrosh Marketing. I'm going to post that link, and we'll make sure that everybody can find you and, subscribe to this video. But is there anything else that you want to leave us with before we end up? Because that covered a lot of territory in regards to marketing and advertising and budgets and target audiences. But these are the questions people have when they're thinking about growing their business, and they just don't know where to get started, or they've had a small budget or medium budget, whatever their budget is, and it just hasn't been applied properly or correctly, and it hasn't worked for them in the past, and maybe they're scared. So all of these points are really great jumping off points for people who are ready to get back into advertising and marketing their businesses.
I would just say, don't be afraid to ask the really tough questions, and nobody's going to be afraid if you don't know what you're talking about. If you don't know about marketing, ask questions. If you've got friends in the marketing business, even if you've got a radio station rep, sit them down, ask them questions, learn a little bit about what the options that are out there. You don't need to be an expert at it, but the more you know, the smarter, the better questions you can ask. And honestly, no amount of media is too small if you want, or no amount of budget is too small if you want to advertise. You can underspend, sure, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be effective. It just means that you might be leaving some people out that you wanted to target. but there's don't be afraid that you don't have enough money to advertise. You'd be surprised at how much it would take to do the job. And it may not take much at all. And so if you don't have a big budget, that's okay. You can work with a small budget and it can be very effective for you. So do some research, ask some friends. Honestly, you can get on my website and you can give me a call. I'd be more than happy to talk to people if they have questions. This is just it's a fun business. I've been doing this for a long time and I still enjoy what I do. So I love talking to people about it. So.
And it's fun working with people to help them grow and succeed. And that's really what it's all about. It's about partnership and growth and really stepping into a role of new opportunity for their businesses.
Well, opportunities change now that we're still in a pandemic. Marketing has changed. Your needs may have changed dramatically from what they were a year ago. So you got to change with them. You can't continue to do the same thing if the market has changed and the people's attitudes have changed so dramatically in the past 11 months. And hopefully sooner than later, they will change back a little bit and we can come back to some normalcy. But who knows? You have to be ready to go either way. So,
well, again, Fred, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's thank you for setting this up.
Fred, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. If you'd like to find out more about Fred and Eckrosh Marketing, I'll make sure that all the information is in the show notes. If you'd like to find out more about DMG or these podcasts, just check it out below. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you for listening today. I appreciate it.